Okay, welcome everybody to episode 74. And of course, Happy New Year to everybody who's tuning in. Also, Merry Christmas. I did try to keep the Christmas lights up. This is the best I can do. I'm still here in Dubai, and that's all we really do for Christmas here. So, Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you very much for joining. Today's going to be pretty casual. I just wanted to check in and hang out on a Saturday and see what kind of weird questions people can come up with. But I do want to take a minute to say how appreciative I am of everybody following my work. You know, I'm not an overly sentimental person, to be honest, and maybe that should be my own New Year's resolution. I should probably make more of an effort to let everybody know how appreciative I am of just the fact that I have any type of community at all. It's actually been quite a while. You know, sometimes I have to remind myself how long I've actually been at this. So, I retired from pro golf in 2005, started investing, and by 2008, I was sharing my work online, sharing my results as basically a full-time trader at that point. And it wasn't very long, 3-4 years of doing that. And then there was pretty high demand for me to take it a step further. So in 2012, I did launch VTS, and it's actually been 12 years now. So doesn't feel like it. It actually feels like I kind of just started. But the truth is, I've actually been doing this longer than I was golfing. So from the moment I started golf, I was 15 years old, started pretty late, and played hundreds of amateur tournaments growing up and, getting better. And then played pro golf for 5 years, traveled the world, did a bunch of tournaments that way. But, start to finish, it was only 15 years. So I've actually been investing for 18 years now, which is just crazy to think about. But I really, really do want to thank everybody for supporting my work. I know in this social media age, it's kind of a minefield out there. It's kind of toxic. And typically the people that gain the most fame are the ones that are using shock value and a lot of negativity, a lot of clickbaity type stuff. So I very much appreciate people following a somewhat normal, boring guy like me. Not a huge following, but something that I'm very proud of. And I definitely take my responsibility seriously. I work very hard, and, I really try to do my best. So, of course, I'm always willing to take suggestions. Anybody want me to go in certain directions next year? I'm always open to that, open to criticism as well. But thank you very much, everybody. I don't take this responsibility lightly. So very, very much appreciate everybody. So yeah, again, Happy New Year. I see few people showing up. I don't know how many people will show up. Today I didn't have a UVXY trading or VIX options or anything in the title, so probably be a pretty small group. If you happen to have any questions, I'm a real person in the real world. I do a few things other than trading, although I am kind of a workaholic, so the vast majority of my time I am buried in my computer or in my spreadsheets. But if you want to ask any questions, today's the day. Off topic is fine. I'll try not to say anything too stupid if there's some weird questions, but yeah. I do want to talk kind of briefly about one topic though, because of course now is the time that everybody is sort of tackling those New Year's resolutions, Hear about it a lot online. I actually threw a poll up. If you want to go take the poll there, it's up there. Let me just mute the YouTube real quick. There we go. Let's mute that and catch up the stream. Sorry. I'm always slow on this stuff. I do wish I was more technically savvy. If I was real tech savvy, I could have downloaded some graphics and some fireworks or something and really rang in the new year correctly. But this is the best I got. Sorry. But yeah, the New Year's resolution stuff. I understand that, it's kind of a fun thing, and, some people may take it seriously. Most people probably don't. But it is a pretty good time to just mentally reboot, if anything. Like, the new year shouldn't mean anything. We should obviously be committed to excellence in July and October and January 1st. But I just wanted to talk really, really briefly about maybe a few ways that people could improve their effectiveness of their New Year's resolutions. So wrote a few things down. Bear with me. And then you can go ahead and think up all your questions if you've got any. But essentially, the way I see it, there's a few reasons why New Year's resolutions don't work. The first one that I would say that we could identify is they weren't really made with any real commitment, right? I've got experience with this as well. You're kind of just hanging out with your friends and somebody will bring it up. What's your resolution? And on the spot, you kind of think of something, but it's not a real commitment, right? Or you're out at a New Year's party and everybody asks you and you haven't really thought about it. So you think, oh, I'm going to get fit this year. I'm going to make $1 million, whatever it is. But they're not really high commitment stuff. Like I said, if something was important enough to you, you don't have to wait till January 1st to do it. So one of the reasons that resolutions fail is simply because they're not really taken very seriously. Another reason you might think about is that, and this is actually important far beyond New Year's resolutions, but just achieving goals in general, but people set the goal as the resolution, not the plan. So what I mean by this is somebody might say something like, well, next year I'm going to get really fit, right? I want to be fitter. Well, great. That's a great goal to have. Obviously, fitness is very important. For me personally, I take it quite seriously, but that's not a plan, right? That's just a statement. That's just the end result. You want to be fit, but how are you going to go about doing that? How many workouts are you going to do? What time of day? What type of workouts? What's your eating plan? Are you going to intermittent fasting? Are you going to try the carnivore diet? Whatever it is, you have to actually have something specific. You don't just label the end goal. Some people say, well, I want to make more money. Great, don't we all? Everybody wants to make more money. I want to make more money, but how exactly are you going to go about doing that? So you really have to frame things as if it is more of an action plan rather than just some nebulous goal like I want to make more money. I've never met anybody who doesn't. So, and then the third thing, of course, is they're not written down. I'm sure you've heard this many times in the past, but if you don't write it down, you're definitely not going to achieve it, right? If you ask a successful business person, they have a plan. It's all written down. They probably got a PowerPoint presentation with budgeting and, everything that they can think of. It's a plan, right? For fitness, bodybuilders, fitness models. They'll have stacks of books of workouts and routines and eating plans, and everything is really written down. If it's not written down, you're not going to achieve it. Back when I was golfing, I had stacks of books myself on practice schedules and all kinds of things. I used to record everything in the past. I used to have action plans for the future, 10 steps. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the time of day I'm going to do it. All those types of things. So that's what I would say is really, if you want to treat these New Year's resolutions a little more seriously, that's what I would say. So this might be familiar for people who have followed my live streams in the past. This was for a couple years ago, but I'm going to do kind of something similar. So for this one, I was talking about the best ways to find your perfect career, following the 4 Ps. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but proficiency, passion, profit, and purpose. If you can find something in the middle of this little Venn diagram, you're probably good to go. So same thing with finding your fulfilling life. And New Year's resolutions will probably fall in some of these categories. So for me, I do prioritize health as number one, simply because just in my brain, it might not be for you, but for me, I feel like if you don't have your health, you really don't have anything else, right? If you have a bunch of money, but you're super unhealthy, it's really difficult to enjoy that. It is hard to enjoy time with family and friends and stuff if you're, extremely unhealthy. So I always prioritize this as number one. Of course, you don't have to. Career is super important. And as I always say, obviously my live streams are open to everybody, but I do speak to men mostly. I don't know why, but my, 99% of my community is men. Especially for men, career is an extremely high thing. It's basically a point of pride for us, and that's obviously a big one. Third one would be relationships. Cannot overlook this. This would, for many people, they might even put this first, right? But again, I think if you don't have your health, the rest is kind of hard to enjoy or even attain, to be honest. And then the fourth thing would be hobbies. And I did a poll, and I was actually interested to see, I did a poll on Twitter here, and a few people mentioned hobbies, but it is actually on the low end. And in the live stream chat, you can also answer that poll as well. What am I looking at? 58% have health goals so far. Career, relationships. Hobbies are always very low, but the truth is that, hobbies are super important. It's basically how we enjoy ourselves, unwind a little bit. But for certain people, and I'm certainly guilty of this as a workaholic, you actually kind of have to force yourself to do your hobbies. So you'll see in a minute when I show how I track my goals and whatnot for the next year coming. And I actually outright try to force myself to do my hobbies. And you might think, well, that's crazy. If you liked it, you'd just go do it. But sometimes you just prioritize other things. And for me, everything defaults to work or fitness. So it's actually hard to enjoy my life sometimes. I have to force myself to do it. So that's the 4 areas that I would say. And then if you can, like I said, a little Venn diagram, if you can put all this together, you're probably going to have a pretty good life. So our goals are going to be these 4 things. And whenever I'm doing these New Year's resolutions, in air quotes, I typically have 4 categories. So this is what I do personally. This, obviously you don't have to do this. I have super simple spreadsheets for everything. I track what I eat, I track what I do, I track my running, I track everything. I have 10 spreadsheets I update every single day, budget spreadsheets, all this. But my goal spreadsheet's very, very simple. And you can make one yourself, it's totally fine. I just list out a whole bunch of things that I'm going to achieve in the year. I think I've hidden relationships. I'll keep that one to myself. But essentially for fitness, 100 runs and 100 visits to the gym, right? 200 workouts in a year. And I can't wait to click some of these off, right? Essentially what I do is I just try to get after all of these things as fast as possible, and I'll put a little done, and I'm basically trying to get to the end as fast as I can before the year is up. And it kind of, not only it keeps me honest with what I'm doing, and I can actually track how I'm actually doing it, because this is a plan. Of course, everybody wants to be fit, but what does that mean? I feel like if I run 100 times, and when I run distance, I run, 14 to 21 kilometers each run. So it's a pretty good workout for me. And then 100 visits to the gym. If I do that, my fitness goal will be achieved. Getting fit is the goal, but this is the plan. Same with career. So I label 52 videos. That would be great. 1 a week. 1 live stream a week. That'd be great. A short, an article a week. I want to do some collabs this year, so maybe 10 of those. I am, for anybody watching and who's everybody's anxious to get it launched, I am planning to do the VTS Options Academy as well. Now, it won't launch January 1st, so I'm going to give myself 26, basically cut in half. But I can't wait to start ticking these things off, right? Hobbies. I'm going to force myself to golf 26 times next year. That's once every 2 weeks. I think I might be able to handle that. But again, other than work and, stuff like that, golf. I got to force myself to get out there. But that's what I do. That's what I would suggest everybody does, is take it a little more seriously. Get those resolutions and formulate an actual plan, step by step. Do what I do, make a basic spreadsheet. That takes me 10 minutes to make, 5 minutes to make, and then you just have the fun of clicking them off. So I know that I'm going to achieve my basic goals next year because I'm going to click every single one of those things before the year is up. And if I do that, that would be across the board in all 4 categories, I'm going to be making some headway. So that's kind of how I've been able to level myself up every year. I feel like every year I'm just a little bit better than the previous year. That's the goal. So there you go. Resolutions are great. They're fun, but it can also be a way for you to reboot your life if you take it seriously. So Happy New Year to my wife. Yes, she's here. We're going to our own New Year's celebration tomorrow. Here in Dubai, there's one of those all-you-can-eat buffets. It's amazing. A pretty high-level buffet. Can't wait to go. It's called Saffron for anybody who's ever been here before. And then we'll do the fireworks at the Atlantis Hotel and all that stuff. So should be a lot of fun. Happy New Year to everybody. Wishing me Happy New Year right back at you. Cheers from Chicago. I've never been to Chicago. I've always wanted to go. Just signed up for the free trial. Thank you. Very much appreciated. I hope you find some value in my work. Now you're a trader that happens to play golf. Yeah, exactly. It's so weird thinking about that because, my knee-jerk reaction would be to say, no, golf, that I cultivated that career over so many years. It was such a major part of my life. And then I just think about it and I think, I've actually golfed for 15 years, but I have been an investor for 18. So I'm no longer a golfer. You're right. I'm a weekend hack and my game kind of shows it too. I'm not nearly as good as I used to be, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get some resemblance of my game back. Shot a couple good rounds last year, so. Okay, so any questions? Let's jump into these. All right, you mentioned religion. Uh-oh. Did I get myself in trouble already in the email, and now I'm curious? Yeah, I probably should have left religion out. What has your experience view with religion been? No wrong answer. I've changed over time myself. Yeah, like answering religion questions on social media, that can be a little bit dangerous because, some people are just, they're not as forgiving for other people's viewpoints. I think that's one thing that, social media is kind of a minefield. It's a disaster in many ways. I think that we will be studying for years to come about the negative effects of social media. But should I answer that? Okay, let me try. I'll be nice. I have nothing against. I'm always nice, aren't I? I think I'm always nice. I'm a polite Canadian. You mentioned religion in the email. What has your experience view with religion been? So, okay, I'm just going to answer it. Whatever. Hate me if you want. I am not religious, but I'm not one of those people that, would actively promote other people to not be religious. In fact, I would honestly say I guess I'm more in the camp of like the Jordan Peterson, if you follow his work, where the ancient stories and the religions and the organized religions, while they may not be technically true, there certainly probably is a lot of utility, and there's a lot of people in the world who not only benefit from it, but there does seem to be quite a bit of evidence that they almost require it, it brings purpose to their life. I've done a little bit of reading and studying on this stuff, and it does seem like, if you could be scientific at all with it, that maybe 10% or so of the population doesn't really require that. The higher purpose is coming from within, and I would put myself in that category, that I've just never really felt that, the Holy Spirit or whatever it is. I've just never felt it. So, and I've never really needed to. But I think it's pretty clear that a sizable percentage of the world does actually need that. And there is utility to it, like the value of organizing in small communities and religious groups and whatnot. I mean, a lot of good things come from that. So I don't know. I tend to differentiate between what is technically true based on evidence. I am an evidence-based person. I do require actual evidence to believe in things. And I've never felt it. But I guess there's been times that I wish I did. It's one of those things. I don't know how far in the weeds people want me to go with this, but I think in this social media age, another thing too is that the word atheist gets a pretty bad rap in our modern world, but it doesn't mean what most people think it means. For some reason, the true definition of the word atheist seems to be lost on quite a few people, but it doesn't mean that you are definitive in anything, right? A lot of people say, oh, you're an atheist. How could you possibly know that there's no God, for example? That's not what the word means, right? If you break it down, theist means to believe, and atheist means to not believe, right? It's a belief claim. It's not a knowledge claim. The word Gnostic means knowledge, to know something. The word agnostic means to not know something. So if you have 4 categories, an atheist is simply a person who doesn't believe in God because they never felt the Holy Spirit, we'll call it, for lack of a better word. But it certainly doesn't say anything definitive. I have absolutely no idea. So, I mean, I could wind up at the pearly gates one day and be like, wow, look at that. I was completely wrong, who knew? But no, I have absolutely nothing definitive to say. And in fact, I would say that, there really are no Gnostics in the world. Nobody knows the answer. So in the most polite way that I could say it, I've never felt it, but I have a lot of friends who have, and a lot of friends and family members. I mean, pretty much most people in the world have. I just haven't. It is what it is. So, yeah, that's my answer. Hopefully it didn't ruffle any feathers. I could go on I'm actually quite interested in religion. I've read the Bible multiple times. I know it quite well. Like it, learn from it, lots of valuable things in there. Just, technically true, I don't know. And it's the same. I mentioned Jordan Peterson. I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but when he's speaking, it's pretty clear that he's on the same thought, that he doesn't think that, for example, did Noah actually gather 2 species, 2 of every species and put them on a wooden boat that he made? Or is it just a good story that has a lot of utility in the world, right? All of these things, technically true, valuable, I consider those 2 different things. Okay. Did I dodge the religion question? I don't know. My email might fill up tomorrow. What do you like about Dubai? Again, I could go on forever. Low taxation. How is life in the Middle East? So good question. I get a lot of Dubai questions. And before I was a Dubai resident, I was a resident of Panama for several years. Kind of the same reasons, but the reason I left there is because I have nothing against Panama. It was actually quite beautiful. You probably saw some of my live streams. I had a beautiful view over the water. It was amazing, but it wasn't a place that I would really wanted to visit very often. It's just difficult to get to. I didn't want my wife to be traveling back and forth. And so I switched my residency a few years ago to Dubai, and I absolutely love it here. So what do I like about Dubai? You mentioned taxes, so we'll just go with that first of all. Yeah, obviously, I mean, not paying taxes, it's a huge boost. You know, if you looked at basically the 4 pillars of success in building wealth, I mentioned the 4 pillars of, a fulfilling life. Talking about things like building a good income would be one of them for sure. Successful investing would be another one. I would put minimalism as a 3rd pillar that, if you can watch what you spend and you can live below your means, that's fantastic as well. Not trying to keep up with the Joneses. And then the 4th pillar would be tax efficiency. And there's nothing more efficient than zero. So yes, having 0 taxes in Dubai, obviously that's a big bonus. And I never talk about money or income or anything like that, but for people who have pretty good incomes, you can imagine how much savings that is. It's actually mathematically a bigger boost to your wealth than the other 3 things, right? If you can have 0 taxes, imagine right now how much money you'd be able to save if you did that. So 0 taxes is great, but there's many other reasons that Dubai. So let's go through some of them. Crime is literally 0. There's absolutely no crime. In the areas that I hang out in, there's absolutely none. And of course, the flip side, you could say, and people try to make the case sometimes that, well, it's because you can't do anything and it's so strict and, don't even hold hands with your wife. I've heard people say that. They say, don't get caught kissing your wife or don't ever get caught drinking alcohol. I would say that people who say those things haven't been here. It's actually a very liberal place. There's probably 100 bars within 5 minutes of my house. You can drink at all of them. There's 3 liquor stores near my house. You can buy liquor, walk down the street, take it home. You can drink it at, wherever. Not on the street, but like Canada, you can't drink on the street either. There are some countries where you have to be in a house or in a bar or in a restaurant. So it's like that. And, anybody who says you can't hold hands or kiss, have you seen Instagram? Have you seen what the culture and lifestyle that goes on in Dubai? It's not exactly a conservative place. I would say it's pretty much the most liberal place I've lived in, or one of them. So the crime rate is incredible. The weather is awesome. Like, it's 26 degrees every single day in the winter. Summer gets blistering, crazy hot. I mean, for most people, just unbearably hot. But I actually like the heat. So I spend summer here. I go out running. I go golfing. I do stuff. It's fine. What else? The bureaucracy is basically 0. Anything that you want to do gets done almost instantly, where I don't know what your experience in your country is, but for me personally, I'm a Canadian, bureaucracy is out of control in Canada. Anything you want done, it takes forever to do. It's like, go to this building, then get that signed, wait 2 weeks, go to that building. In Dubai, you basically just, I want this, you go to the building, they call your number. Typically when you show up, your number is already called. So you grab the paper and you walk to the desk. I rented an apartment yesterday, and it was that case that you have to, go to the land office, pulled my number. They told me immediately go sit down. I sat down, they stamped it, took my thumbprint, and it was done. When I tried to get my residency, it was the easiest thing in the world. It was literally 5 minutes. I had a lawyer prepare everything ahead of time, and then I just went to one building, signed a paper, and it was done. I renewed my passport, no problem at all. Everything here is done instantly. You want to start a business, just start the business, right? There's no red tape, there's nothing. So that's good. Another thing, that real estate is extremely cheap. A lot of people think that Dubai is this ultra expensive place. And it can be. I mean, you can go to 7-star hotels, you can eat $1,000 dinners if you want, you can go to drink coffee that's covered in gold, you can do all these things, but you can also live a very reasonable lifestyle, much cheaper than in other countries. So just for example, as a number, $1 million US dollars in real estate goes a very long way here. I mean, you can buy an incredible house for $1 million. $500,000, you can buy a great house, on the beach, 2-bedroom apartments with a view. You can get that here. It's actually a very cheap place to live. When you factor in no taxes, cheap real estate, probably one of the cheapest places I've ever lived in. So there's that. Yeah, I could go on and on. It's just, I mean, obviously it's just sensory overload with the developments and all that stuff. But for me personally, I'm kind of a city kid, so I like that. If you're from the country, it might be overwhelming, all the lights, all the, skyscrapers and everything. But I like that, so it's kind of cool. Everywhere you go, there's something cool to look at and something cool to see. It is just an experience living here. It's fantastic. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about it. And, hopefully that's, what did I say, 7 or 8 things there. Yeah. How's life in the Middle East? I don't know because, I mean, Dubai's in the Middle East, but is it Middle East? I have interest in Saudi Arabia. I've talked about it many times before that they look like they're liberalizing and they're developing. And I mean, I wouldn't go there now, but give it 10 or 15 years, I guarantee you Saudi Arabia is considered a very good place to go and to live. Come back in 15 years and tell me I'm wrong. But, I might even be investing in a little property there at some point in the next 10 years. I just think, the Middle East is great. And obviously a lot of things maybe not to like, a lot of hesitation around, people criticize human rights stuff and like that, glass houses and all that stuff. I think Western countries have a few things they don't really want to talk about either, but it is what it is. But yeah, Dubai is not really the Middle East, I don't think. Extremely liberal here. Love it. And I would recommend people at least look into it. If you've got a location independent job and you don't actually have to live somewhere, shop around a little bit. There's this attitude people have that just because you were born somewhere that somehow you have allegiance to that country. But if they are absolutely raking you on taxes and mismanaging your taxes and spending money on these crazy programs that you don't want, and they're not spending money on things you do want, and what would you do in any other situation other than a citizen to government relationship? If you're being abused like that, or if you're constantly giving to somebody and they're just absolutely abusing the rights and, the privilege of having your money, then you'd probably shop around a little bit, wouldn't you? So this is 2023, 2024 in 2 days. It's, we're a global community. You can actually, give a shout out to Andrew at the Nomad Capitalist YouTube channel. His little catch line is go where you're treated best. Makes sense to me. I'm treated phenomenally well in Dubai, and I love Canada. It's a beautiful place, but, at this current moment, Dubai has a little bit more to offer me. So, yeah, this is something I do a lot. Make a plan, put it on a whiteboard, check things off as you do them. Those are my best years. Exactly. Awesome comment. I have a whiteboard in my office back in Taiwan. My wife will attest to this. I've got whiteboards, all over the place. I'm always writing down, 20 things or something. Can't wait to check them off and scratch them off. It's really the best way because it has to be written down. You got to be able to see it, but you also have to get those little wins. Take those little baby steps, right? If you're unhealthy, maybe you used to be fit and now you kind of let yourself go for the last 10 years, and this is the year that you're going to tackle it, you have to. You're not going to jump out, with me and go for a 25-kilometer run in Dubai. You're just not going to do that. So you need those little wins. Success is about stacking small wins. And then when you look back, you think, wow, I've come so far. But nothing was really, a mountain to climb. It was just these little steps. So spreadsheets where you get to write down, done, finished, another video in the can, stuff like that, checking off whiteboards. That's exactly how you do it. Happy New Year to my sister. Awesome. Yeah. What time is it there? 10:30. I don't know. What's the conversion? Does that mean 2:30 in the afternoon? I don't know. It's nighttime. Anyway, Happy New Year. Yes. The job tech market is so tough right now that I had to put my career on the back burner this year, focusing on gym and meeting a woman this year instead. Well, gym will help that for sure. Let's be honest. There's nothing wrong with getting lean and jacked if you're looking to get a little bit more attention from women. That's good. Obviously, job and showing signs of financial success help as well. So don't put the job off completely. Start a side hustle. This is one of the things I made a video during the pandemic. I was really encouraging people to not just sit at home for 6 months, really take this running and, start a side hustle, get that real estate certification. So by the time you're out, do it online or whatever it is, start your CFA program if you're into finances or, some of the other basic ones, that's fine. This might be one of those things. Your primary goal might have been derailed by things that are out of your control, but you got more time on your hands now. Maybe you could start a side hustle that I know everybody watching, they've been thinking and they have good ideas, right? Everybody in the world has ideas that would work and they would make money. The only difference is not many people execute, right? We all have great ideas that if you just executed on any one of the 6 or 7 that have popped into your head, they would all work. You just have to execute. So sorry to hear that. I have been following that the tech market, there has been a lot of layoffs and stuff like that. Brutal. And I don't know what AI and all that's going to do to it. Maybe it's even worse coming. But yeah, I wouldn't let it stop you from building something else. And yeah, the gym, the women, that's a good plan. Nothing wrong with that. I don't like to skip questions, but I'm going to read it secretly anyway. For the defensive rotation strategy, you replace your volatility metrics that use VIX with VXN, or you have found a VIX is better signal. I don't use either of them. So this is one very easy. The volatility barometer for our trade signals, the VIX is like 3% of it. So the VIX index itself is a terrible indicator. But that's all you're going to get. Ask me this question next week, and I'll give you a much better answer. Hello from Ottawa. I love Ottawa. Yeah, Happy New Year. I love Canada. I've got nothing wrong with Canada. A lot of people call me a traitor because I've left Canada, but it was just my life. It's just the way that things developed for me. I lived in Canada I was born in 75, so I'm an old man at this point. Don't hold it against me. I was born in 75. I went to school at University of Calgary for a little bit, a year and a bit or something, and then I transferred to Simon Fraser in Vancouver. Played golf there. Graduated in 2000, played pro golf till 2005. But in 2000, of course, I played the Canadian Tour for 1 year in golf, but there's really not a whole lot of opportunity in Canada. So I left Canada in 2000 and I went to the States. I lived in California, a lot of it. I lived in Florida. I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona for 4 years. I lived in all of the warm places in the U.S. and I traveled overseas. I played some on the Asian Tour. I played anywhere that there was opportunity as a pro golfer. I wasn't on the PGA Tour. I mean, there's only 125 cards a year, and I was kind of missed it by 2 shots 1 year. That was the closest I ever got, but I wasn't on the big tour, so I had to, kind of take my shot on the mini tours. I left Canada, and I had no other reason. I liked it, but in the last 20 years, I just didn't go back, right? I visit, right? But it's just not for me. People call me a traitor. I love Ottawa. I love Montreal. I don't particularly like Toronto, so I'm, anyway, I don't want to isolate my community here. Like, hey, I live in Toronto. I'm sure it's a nice place. I'm a Vancouver guy. Is golfing your hobby now? I was a mechanic, but my hobby is building streetcars. Awesome. In my own time. How do you feel about the collector car market? Well, I'm a car guy too. I'm also a finance guy and I'm also a minimalist. So those things don't go well together. I always, I like boats. I like watches. I like a lot of things that I don't spend a lot of money on. But yeah, I'm a car guy too. I think that's a fantastic hobby. I'm not a mechanic. I can't fix cars. So, but yeah, like there's been times where, for me, 64 to 70 Mustang, I'll take any one of them basically. Old Corvettes, love them. Tons of the old muscle cars I like. I am a little bit older. I'm of that generation. So, for me, Mustang's the top. If I wanted one, that's, how old are those now? That's 35, 55. They're almost 60 years old. the cars that I like. So yeah, that's a great hobby. Is golf my hobby? If I check off 26 rounds, then I'd say golf's a hobby. If I only get 10, I've had years, like I've been retired from golf for 18 years. I've had years where I didn't play. I've had a 10-year stretch there where I played no more than once or twice a year. No, I'm not even a golfer, but I still remember how to play. It's like swimming. I used to be a competitive swimmer. I haven't swam much. I stopped doing swimming, stopped doing triathlons. But if I dive in the pool now, I can still swim. You'd still think, oh, that guy's, he's a competitive swimmer. Golf's the same. You'd think I'm a pro golfer if you saw me, but I know the difference. I know how bad I suck, even though my score says, 68 or 70. Shot 65 twice last year, but I know the difference. Put me on a real golf course from the back tees on a windy day with competitors and, 100 people in the gallery watching me, and I'd have a hard time breaking par these days. So, yeah, I'm a weekend warrior. JP is much more right than he is wrong. I think you said this last week as well. I think what's JP? Jordan Peterson. I thought you were going on the Joe Biden. I remember the JB comments last week. Jordan Peterson is right more than he's wrong. Yeah, I like Jordan Peterson a lot. I really do. Early on, I kind of didn't. Like years ago when I started watching him, I found him early. But in the last 3-4 years, aside from the fact that he seems to be, I don't know, the addiction to some, painkillers or what, I don't know. I don't really know what it was, but that seems a little odd. But yeah, I like Jordan Peterson a lot. I think he's pretty much, he's a force for good, and he's just good to listen to. A lot of I mentioned it today on Twitter. A lot of times when I'm listening to podcast is when I'm spreadsheeting and doing work that doesn't really require super focus. It's just I can listen to stuff in the background. And yeah, a lot of Jordan Peterson stuff. He's great. But I do think he dances, to get back to this old religion question at the top, I think it's hard for him specifically because he dances on this real fine line where he can't come out and say it, right? Because he's got a large audience that is very religious. And he can't really come out and say that he doesn't actually believe that it's literally all true. So he has to default to all the utility of it. And I agree with him there that it's just, a lot of good things come from organizing in communities and, all the charitable work and all those things. So I suppose I'm fairly well in line with Jordan Peterson, if you wanted to know my views. I visited Dubai once. It was truly stunning. Yeah, it's visual overload. My mom hasn't been yet. I wanted to kind of get her over here and let her stay for a couple of months and show her around. But I think she's, we're from Calgary. Calgary's a city, but it's not really a big city. And I just think it would be visual overload for her. But you got to see it once. Everybody who's never been, you got to see it once. It's truly amazing. And give me a call, of course. We can go for coffee. I met somebody last week. It was cool. Met a VTS subscriber at one of the coffee shops nearby. Always like doing that. How easy is it to become a resident? Oh, it was the easiest thing in the world. I couldn't believe how easy it was. When they told me I was done, I was just like, that can't be. When I wanted to be a Panama resident, the Panama visa is considered fairly easy to get as well. It was called Friendly Nations Visa when I got it. And as long as you're one of the 60 or so countries that they allow, you can get a visa and you can basically live the tax-free lifestyle. And you don't even really have to live there for very long. But I had to go twice, so 2 separate trips to Panama, separated by 6 months. So you go the first time, you sign all the papers, and there's a lot of papers at multiple government buildings, as there would be in Canada or I'm sure any other Western country. And it was kind of an ordeal. And then you had to wait 6 months, come back. And then you had to come back a third time, but it can't be longer than 4 months or something. So you had to go back within 4 months the third time to get the card. It was an ordeal. It took me over a year to get Panama residency. In Dubai, I hired a lawyer. I'm going to say 5 emails back and forth for the lawyer to gather my information, scanned a bunch of documents, sent them. The lawyer did everything. They said, okay, come to Dubai on this date. We've got your date for the building. Wear pants. You have to wear pants in the government buildings. So I arrived in the summer, didn't have any. I wore shorts in the summer, went to buy a pair of pants, went to the office, signed some papers. I'm like, what's next? And that was it. They said, no, you're done. I couldn't believe what they were saying. Yeah, it's just crazy. There's no bureaucracy here. Really, really great. Same with the airport. When you go to the airport here, you'll be amazed how fast you get through that place. Now, it's a massive airport. You have to walk for miles to get to baggage claim. Expect a long walk. But as far as actually getting through security and showing your passport, it's just like, hey, welcome, thanks, go, no problem at all. Work question, ask me next week. Do you consider interest rate plays? No, I don't really do I don't speculate on bonds. Bonds for us is just a parking spot for capital when we don't want to be in stocks or short volatility or things like that. I think bonds are just too unpredictable, so I don't really do that stuff. I subscribed for 5 months. I've seen more value in all the data you email each day. Great. This year, I actually wanted to do that. So after this question, I'm going to just highlight what's to expect for next year. But have you considered making past history available? For the data, I would assume you mean. So I'm going to go through some changes in the next month or so. So the website will have more data on the individual strategies. This is going to be an experiment. I might have to stop doing that again because I launched in 2012. I had every strategy, all the results for each individual strategy on the website at all times up until about 2020-ish, something like that. But my emails are a nightmare. As I've mentioned a million times, nobody cares about my email issues, but I do spend, a good 4 to 5 hours a day answering emails. And a lot of them are questions related to that data on the website. So they'll see it and they'll think, well, okay, how about this? And how come that number is this number? And then I'll have to answer the email and then follow-up email. And every time I answer one, they have 3 more questions to ask. So I went through this kind of purge period, so to speak, where I just totally minimize the website. I only show the whole portfolio, not the individual strategies. I stopped sharing data for the individual volatility metrics. There was a bunch of stuff I did with emails. I, of course, started doing the live streams. This has helped a lot. So now that I answer a question, it's bulk a little bit. So I kind of solved it a little, but I'm tempted to dip a toe back in the water and start making the website a little nicer again, because it is very minimal at this point. It used to be much better. And then as far as sharing data, I always get myself in trouble when I say something and then it's not really a fully fledged out plan. And then I get 5 months of people asking. But yes, I'm going to start doing that. So let me just tell you what I'm doing, basically. For the basic rundown. So I was going to say 2024, I have been guilty in the past of basically, I get so excited to share things with everybody that sometimes I don't end up finishing the project before I'm off to a new one, and then I'm off to 2 more, and I just want to get some focus this year. That's one of my resolutions, to be honest. And it is written down. Trust me, it's written down. Full plan. But I'm going to focus on 3 projects until they're all done, and that's it. Like this year, I'm going to focus. I'm going to try anyway, you know me, but essentially just to give you a little teaser, I'm going to focus on the 3 things that I think people are most interested in when they follow my work. So the first one, of course, is a full course, a video course. Each one of these topics is a video explaining our portfolio because, people are interested in it. Like this is our portfolio. I want to share all of this. Oh, this is my new spreadsheet. This is one that won't crash my computer, so it's not quite filled in yet. But yeah, people are interested in the portfolio, so I'm going to do a full course, basically breaking down just every subject that I can find. These are all videos that I have ideas for. The second thing I think that most people have, and it's your question as well, the volatility dashboard. So when we show this is my daily email, and all the trade signals kind of look like this. They've all got their own trade dials. This is our volatility strategy, stock replacement, blah, blah, blah. Today's not a work live stream. But anyway, at the bottom, there is our volatility dashboard. And a lot of these metrics, of course, they've all got articles and whatnot, but a lot of people have questions about what all of these numbers mean. And so I'm going to focus on this course as well. And all of these are videos. I've got a lot of ideas to make this a good course. And then I can do this course and I could do this course. That'll all be interesting for people. And then I'm going to kind of do them in order until they're done. Like I said, it's going to be a commitment to consistency this year because my brain does seem to get ahead of myself and I share a little bit too much. And the second thing I will say, of course, the third thing is the VTS Options Academy. It is kind of going, like in the background, I am working on it. These are all videos that are color-coded. They're all at, various stages of completion, all of them. I've got the VIX options course with a bunch of videos, various stages of completion. I am going on this, but this is something that I do want to finish as well. So those are the things that I'm going to focus on this year, in the coming year. We're going to really tackle the portfolio from all angles. You know, I suppose I'm a little bit of, you know, victim of my own success, so to speak. But what I've essentially done, because I've been at this so long, that in my brain, it all builds on itself. Like I said, I'm 18 years into my investing career. I'm 12 years into VTS, which is like official subscribers. And I actually had email subscribers before that. So I'm about 15 years into people following my portfolio. So every year I kind of just build on the previous stuff. And then somebody new comes in 2023 and they look at this wall of articles and videos and live streams and they don't really know what they're looking at, right? So I have to look at the whole thing through the lens of a new subscriber in 2023. They don't know that every question they have, I answered it in 2012, right? But they don't know that. It's buried deep in these things. So that's the first thing. We're going to do a full course, top to bottom, explaining the actual portfolio. The second thing would be to dive into volatility metrics. I think that's what makes my work unique. These are things that nobody really ever talks about anywhere else. So I am kind of, you know, have a niche in that space, so to speak. And I really want to tackle that as well. And there will be data downloads involved. And then, of course, I'm an avid options trader. That's how I started my career. 18 years ago, I wasn't trading stocks or, you know, ETFs or anything like that. I was trading options from day one. So I do want to bring back the VTS Options Academy. We had it going for many years, and then I just got too busy. Mostly emails, just too busy answering emails. I had to choose between VTS and VTS Options, and I chose VTS. Shut down the VTS Options, and I will bring it back. So those are the 3 projects to look forward to. Hopefully somewhere in there was a answer to your question. Expat Canuck myself. Yeah. I will always speak highly of Canada, Vancouver, BC in 2000. Yeah, I was in 2002. I graduated from SFU in 2000. Nice place to live, but you can't eat the trees. What? I don't know what that means. Maybe I do. Yeah, maybe I do. Yes, for the data. Yep, there will be data. I think people will be, I mean, give it a chance. Obviously, come to the weekly live streams and give me feedback. Hold me accountable to those things that you want to see. But know that I am kind of zeroing in on those 3 subjects from here on out. If liquidity wasn't an issue, work question, I'll answer it super fast. Would you choose the IVB or SVXY? SVXY. SVXY is better, slightly better performance-wise. But you can consider them materially identical. Watch last week's live stream, actually. I showed charts on the difference between the 2 of them, and I showed actual data that the SVXY does slightly win. But you need to do the investor route that needs like $204,000 or a different route to residency. No, residency is dirt cheap. It costs like $4,000 a year, $4,000 US a year. You just start a company. And there's a long list of valid companies that you could start. And they're all, you know, I started VTS. I just registered it there and you're good to go. So there's 3 routes basically. You can I think through marriage is one of them, but don't quote me on that. It seems to make sense. The second one would be owning real estate. So when I first did this several years ago, it was 1 million dirhams, which is $272,000 US. Now they've upped that to 2 million because a lot of people are actually moving to Dubai to take advantage of this wonderful place that it's so much more than just a tax efficient place. It's just a phenomenal place to live. So that's actually gone up to 2 million. And I would imagine it's going to go to 3 million. So right now, if you buy a house, and mortgage doesn't count, you have to own it outright, free and clear. So right now it's $544,000 home. If you, US dollars, if you own it outright, they give you residency with no questions asked. And the third one is to start a business. Oh, the fourth one would be to get a job. Like if you land a job online or something, a company can sponsor you and you can come. But I don't know if that's a route that many people take. Typically, when people say I'm a resident of Dubai, they did it either through buying a home or they did it through starting a business. And for me, I don't know the real estate landscape yet. I don't even know where in the city I want to live permanently, so I have not bought anything here. I just rented a place yesterday for another 1 year. So I have 1 year to decide where I'm going to buy my house, and then I will buy a place here next year. I'm going to start running TLT again. Yeah, I think I've said it many times. As soon as the Fed, it's more than hinting. Once they actually start lowering rates, then something like TLT does start to make a pretty good safety position for our strategies. But for the last several years, we've not used TLT. When interest rates are going up, of course, it's just bond funds don't do well. Logistics question, going from country to country. How do you transfer all your belongings? Well, that's easy. I have none. Seems like a lot to keep moving around. Wondering how you deal with that. I'm a minimalist, and when I say I'm a minimalist, people often, push back a little bit because I do spend a lot of money. So typically when people say I'm a minimalist, you imagine this person that, just tries to live dirt cheap. What is it? The FIRE community. I'm not one of those. I'm not a financial minimalist. I'm a stuff minimalist. I still spend, $250,000 a year. It might sound like a lot to some people. Other people think, well, that's not very much, but that's about what I spend. So I'm not a minimalist in the financial sense. I'm a stuff minimalist. The only things I own are things I actually use. And if I don't use it regularly, I don't have it with me. I just buy it if I need it and then give it away when I don't need it anymore. So when I travel, I can literally carry 95% of my belongings in 2 suitcases. I just take a giant suitcase and my golf bag, big travel bag, and everything I own fits in that. I do own a house in Taiwan, so of course I do have a fridge and, couches and whatnot, but essentially all my stuff, 2 bags, fits everything I have, everything I ever need. I could pick up and leave and never go back with 2 bags, and I wouldn't really miss anything. I'm not a gangster, though. That reminds me of that old movie, Heat. I don't know if it's old movie to you. For me, it's, I'm an old man, so that's just a movie. But when he said, you have to be able to drop everything in 60 seconds if you feel the heat around the corner. I'm not a gangster, but I could drop everything. And if I feel the heat, I could just pack 2 bags within 20 minutes and I'm out of there. I could do that. Historical data in the VTS index would be awesome. Yeah, I'll get to the data. I don't exactly know how I'm going to present it all, but I think you will get what you want. I am a 1-month subscriber. Welcome. And even watching the videos, it's kind of hard to start, getting into the system. I hear you. For me, it makes perfect sense. I think, what are you talking about? I've written 1,000 articles. What don't you understand? I've done 200 videos. Come on. I mean, they're right there. Done hundreds of hours of just sitting in this chair answering live questions. I've answered everything. And then you get to thinking, well, yeah, but a person who just joined isn't going to just read 1,000 articles. They don't even know where I spoke about half these things. So I totally get your experience that, for me, it's just a logical progression for 15 years. Yeah, of course, the next article's this one because I've already talked about this and this and this. But yeah, for new people, they don't know that. So I will do a much better job trying to put myself in the shoes of a new subscriber and really try to figure out what, 10 videos you have to watch. And if you watch these 10, you're going to understand what I'm doing. I think it's about time that I did something like that. It's been too many years of confusion. Why isn't the historical performance shown on the website anymore? I talked about that a few minutes ago. Only the total portfolio solution. So, of course, everything is on the website. The actual results for the portfolio are up there. It's just I didn't divide it into sub-strategies anymore because, like I said, I used to have that. Each strategy had its own page with, just a wall of information as well. And I just had an overwhelming number of emails, and I had to do something. I mean, I took a very drastic step shutting down our VTS options community because of my email problem. I had to do something. I just had to try things, right? I didn't know what was going to solve it, but I basically made the website as dirt simple as possible. I closed down VTS options service that had 600 people following it. Nobody was happy about that decision. Believe me, I still get people who are, on my case about it. And then, live streams. And I did these things to see if I could fix the problem. So some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to, I don't know. Some people are mad about the website being so simple. Some people are mad that there's no options community. Some people are, can't please everyone, but my emails are, you have no idea. Seriously, Well, maybe you do. Maybe you have a business that you do the same, but very rarely. I would imagine that I'm in the top 99.9 percentile of people who answer email questions. It is overwhelming every day. It's crazy. Obviously, I shouldn't sound like I'm complaining, though. Again, getting back to the very beginning, I should probably do a better job letting people know how much I appreciate that. The fact that my email inbox blows up, and especially if I say or do anything that is a little bit ambiguous or vague, that's a privilege in itself, that I actually have people who are listening to me. That's amazing. So I don't want to belittle it and say, oh, because of this stupid email problem, I can't do all these cool things with VTS. That might be technically true, but I don't mean it that way. So apologies. It is what it is. My email is a big chunk of my day. Why don't you hire someone to help with emails? I've tried hiring people, but the problem is that emails have to be answered by me. It's too important to me. Like the number one thing that people deserve if they pay me money is to get a reasonably fast response to their question from the person that knows the best. There's nobody that could answer emails on my behalf. There's no AI chatbot that could do it. It has to be me, right? So the problem with my business is there's very few spots that doesn't have to be me. A lot of businesses can outsource a lot of the stuff that they're doing. For me, all the strategy building has to be me. All the ideas are mine. I couldn't possibly trust somebody else with my trade decisions. The answering emails has to be me. Planning and writing scripts and shooting videos has to be me. Doing live streams, sitting here, I can't have somebody, pinch hit for me, so to speak. None of that is outsourceable. The only thing that I could outsource is video editing. And you'd be amazed. I've hired at least 15, and they're not better than me, which is amazing because I don't think my editing is very good. But every time I look at their work, I think, I can't even work with this. There's just too many problems, right? So, but I do want a full-time video editor. That would save me a good couple hours a day, right? I do spend quite a bit of time, couple hours a day editing, which sucks. I hate editing. It's the worst part of my job. I'd rather sit in front of my computer answering emails than edit videos. But that's the only spot I could save any time. So it is what it is. I have a business of one. I am VTS. It is my portfolio. All of my capital, all of my money is in my own strategies. Everything you see, none of it is designed to, I think the community think this is really cool and they'll give me extra money, or if I do this on Twitter, they'll think I'm a great trader or something. Nothing I do is to get subscribers. VTS is 100% me sharing what I literally do with all of my capital. So it has to be me. I can't outsource any of this stuff, unfortunately. Is it 0% corporate tax if your company is registered in Dubai, or is it 0% personal? So it used to be 0% for everything. Starting this year, they instituted a 9% corporate tax, I believe, but that is for income that is locally sourced, basically. So if you have a company that makes money in Dubai, you pay a 9% corporate tax. Individual is still totally free. Now, for me, I only have maybe 3 or 4 subscribers from Dubai, so this is a non-issue for me. But yeah, it would depend on the nature of your company. It's possible. It's very unlikely you'd pay any taxes, but it's possible if you have a trading company that actually does business in Dubai, then yeah, 9% going forward. Still, I would call you a trader, not a trader. I am both, apparently. I'm definitely the former. I am a trader. And apparently people are not too pleased that I am a traitor to my home country. I do get a lot of criticism for that. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that Middle East tends to get lumped together in this, this one place. Like, there's a very big difference between Dubai. There's even a big difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which is just over there. It's like, 40 minutes that way. And it's more conservative in Abu Dhabi than it is in Dubai. Dubai is the most liberal by far. And then over there, a little bit of a vibe. There's more conservatives. And then big jump from there to go to other countries like, Saudi Arabia, I mentioned, Iran, whatever, Syria, Jordan, whatever they are. it's not all the same place. They're all individual countries. There's a difference between Qatar or Qatar, however people like to say it. Bahrain, very liberal place. There's a lot of differences between them. But yeah, I get called all kinds of names because I love this place so much. And I love Taiwan. My basically origin story of Taiwan, I moved there. Basically, I retired from golf in 2005. Didn't really know what I was going to do, so I started full-time trading with my money. Back then, I just thought, well, dive in. I always wanted to be an investor, so what good, best time now? Let's start doing this. And I thought I'll just move to Taiwan, learn Chinese for 3 or 6 months. Might be a useful skill. And I loved it so much that still today, I spend at least 7 or 8 months a year in Taiwan. I've basically had a second home there for 17 years, 18 years. I want to be a subscriber of VTS. What are the prerequisites? Do I need to know the core concept of volatility? Well, I offer a free trial for a reason. So it's basically, you would join that first and ask me as many questions as you want. This is, I've already talked about how much I spend on email. I will answer all your questions on email. So you should be good to go. But general rule for anything you follow online is take it slow, right? For people who are serious about this and who are actual investors who are going to be here for multiple decades, whatever you do in the next couple months is not even going to be a little tiny blip on your long-term performance. If you track starting today, going forward 30 years, 20 years, you're not even going to see it, right? Even if it's a good period, you're not going to really notice a month or two. So you take the free trial, go for the 2 weeks, you'll probably be halfway to understanding everything by then. And then when you're ready to jump in, there's nothing saying you have to jump in with, full capital or anything. You just allocate a small amount of money and see what the trades are like, see what the day-to-day is. It's not very active, but that might be a deal breaker right there. If for some reason, if you just can't get access to your computer during the day, then I can't help you, right? I can't act as a custodian for money. You can't give me money and I'll invest it on your behalf. You have to execute the trades yourself. So basically just do it with a small amount of capital until you develop a certain level of trust that all the things that I've been saying seem to check out and you're comfortable with it. And you can sleep at night and everything seems on the up and up, right? This is an online thing. You don't know me. You did just meet me online. It would be a good idea to go through a little vetting process, right? That applies to everybody, not only me. It's just, you don't have to race. I've been here for decades. I will be here for decades longer. You can take it slow. Have you ever thought about establishing a private community on platforms like Discord? People mention Discord a lot. I think I'm a little too old to really know what that is. I gather that it's some type of open chat forum, something like that. I've never really played any video games in my life, so I think Discord's popular on gaming stuff. I don't really know anything about it. I am super busy, so would it require a lot of commitment on my end, or is it roughly self-managed? I don't really know. I've oftentimes thought of having some type of open forum would be cool. If there was, 3 or 4 other established investors out there, maybe 3 or 4 of us who have a decent community, who ask a lot of questions, we could start some type of forum / podcast where there would be 3 or 4 of us weekly doing basically this, hanging out with each other, answering questions from a community, and also maintaining some type of forum where people can ask questions. I think this is really, to be honest, there is very few places in the investing world you can go to actually ask a question and get it answered, right? Very few. Of course, there's podcasts everywhere. Everybody has a podcast these days. But how many places can you go and ask a question about the VX30 roll yield, right? There are volatility people on Twitter. You can try to DM them, but I would imagine you're not going to get any response. So I started this all to be sort of that place where every week, people know they can come here. They've got questions. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, and you might disagree on some of the things I say. That's fine. This isn't a community where I'm sitting atop everyone and, setting commandments down. This is, I do have a, 18-year track record. I am very experienced, but that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything I say. But it is a great resource for people to utilize. And like I said, if there was, 3 or 4 people watching who are also established asset managers, let's start a joint podcast. That'd be great. But Discord, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll look into it. I feel like I'm too busy, but maybe you want to help me start the Discord and you can be a moderator. Sound good? I mean, I'm open to anything. I'm an open book. I'm generous with my time. I will, if people would gain value, I would do it if I had the time. And if you could help me, then I would be more than happy to accept the help. Steven, the initial videos walk you through everything. I don't think they do a good job, though. I appreciate you jumping in on my behalf, but I really don't think I've done a good job. I really do think I need. So you're getting the welcome package. In about a month, the welcome package will be better. I have videos to fill in all the gaps, but it is inadequate. So in your defense, thank you. There is a welcome package. There is a few videos that everybody must watch, but then in his defense as well, it's still pretty trash, to be honest. So I'll fix that up, and yeah, apologies to all new subscribers. It must be a little bit confusing. If you join a community that's only been going for a couple years or a year or less, which I would say is 95% of all of the Twitter traders, like they just started last year, it might seem like it's all very well laid out and it's just so simple. Here's what you do. Here's the strategy. But things start to get a little bit more muddy when it's an entire portfolio designed to invest all of my capital safely. Right, this is not long shot trading. This is not buying long calls on GameStop or AMC. This is a well thought out, comprehensive system for risk adjusted return, right? Absolute return may be slightly lower, risk adjusted metrics as high as they can be. It's built on many, many years of work. So I don't know. I'll figure out a way to make it easier to look at. It can be very hard to get Canadians to understand just how much life bloat and friction there is in the system if they haven't lived elsewhere. Absolutely. And I think that goes for all the other aspects too. Like a lot of times, even if I tell you, here's the 7 reasons why this country might be competitive or better than this country, your home country, people just don't get it because they haven't lived there. Like when I say the crime rate is 0, for example, I don't think Americans know what I'm saying because they've just lived in a place where that's just part of life. And I did too in Canada. Canada's much safer, I think, than the US, just generally speaking, at least where I was born in South Calgary. But when I say there's no crime, I mean, like, this is an Airbnb right now. I rented a place, but I'm still going to stay in this Airbnb for a month. The owner of the Airbnb told me to hang the key on the outside of the door. So right now there's a key to my apartment hanging outside the apartment. I mean, can you name a country that would be the case where you literally, there's no reason to worry about anything? It's such a bizarre feeling. And I'm a person who's traveled the world, so I've experienced that. I've been to Japan multiple times where you just won't believe how safe it is. Like nothing's going to happen to you. Taiwan is the same thing. You can ask women in Taiwan, my wife, she'll walk the streets at 2 a.m. There's nothing going to happen. But we're from Western countries where you wouldn't dream of doing that. When I lived in Vancouver, and I had my wife live with me for 3 months in Vancouver, we rented an Airbnb downtown. Beautiful place, Cole Harbour, Vancouver. It's one of the higher end places in the country. And she had a curfew. I told her, you're absolutely not going to go out if it's dark. That's it. Like you're like back when we were 12 years old. Street lights are on, you come home. That's what it is. It's just people don't know. If they haven't experienced something else, it's really hard for them to get an idea for it. Low bureaucracy. They don't even know what I'm talking about. They're like, no, it's fine. I go to the DMV. I mean, yeah, it's annoying, but everything gets done. No, here it gets done immediately. Like it's just different. So experience the world, and then you'll look back and realize, oh, I see, I could go off on so many side tangents right now. But I love the States. I lived there for 5-6 years. I love it. There is, there's a certain level of acceptance of politics just being in your face all the time. It's not like that in other countries where crime just being on mind all the time. It's not like that in the places where I live. Inefficiencies, government bloat, all these things, it's just not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. And if it is like that where you live, there is nothing wrong with just shopping around a little bit. That's my point. Are you a Formula One fan? No. If you are, who are your favorites? Some great races right near you. I know there's an F1 race here, and I know that a lot of them actually live here. Dubai is one of those places where a lot of the athletes and celebrities, they do kind of consider this their second home. So I know that there's got to be F1 connections everywhere around here. Nope, not a fan. Don't know why. I've never really watched it, so I can't say I'm not a fan. I just never really introduced. I don't watch sports. I don't even watch golf. I don't watch any sports. I'm far too busy for that. I always say, like, it doesn't make much sense for me to watch other people do the thing. I want to do the thing, but I know it's a big deal. Like, many people watch sports. They do, and they get a lot of enjoyment out of it. That's totally fine. It's just for me personally, this new culture of there's actually people who watch other people play video games. Like, I don't play video games. I think it's a total waste of time. I would rather level up my real life. I would rather build a business in real life than build up some online character with this cool sword and armor that's not real, right? But there are other people that not only play the games, but they watch other people play the games. This is just, it's confusing to me, to be honest. And watching sports was always that way. But I know that like half the world is huge sports fans, soccer and football, hockey. It's not for me. I don't even watch golf. I couldn't tell you who, I'm a former pro golfer. I couldn't tell you who's ranked where in the world. And although I am looking forward, 2 weeks from now, the DP World Tour is coming to my home course. So for 2 weeks back to back, they're at a course called Dubai Creek, which I'm a member of, and then Majlis course at the Emirates Golf Club, which I'm a member of. So we can actually go watch both of the tournaments if we want, and we can go see, Rory McIlroy and John Rahm and everybody play golf. So we'll probably go for one day, and then the wife and I, we would rather play golf than watch people play golf, but we will go for one day. Having some high risk, high reward recommendations for options trading outside the VTS strategy would be a nice addition. Well, you're probably not going to get that from me because it doesn't scale. I don't want to get into work questions, but there is really no such thing as high risk. I mean, of course there is. I know what you're saying, but when you stretch it out over multiple years, you have to include the losses as well. And when you do that, safety and consistency does win the race long term. Even if it feels in the short term, in the moment, like, wow, I really want to have a long call strategy that I have a strategy, I might introduce something like it. I call it the lotto ticket strategy. That's essentially what it is just waiting for these rare opportunities, like oil goes negative. Okay, well, we'll take a trade on that. Or, volatility products drop 96% in a day. We'll take some type of counter trend trade there. Or, you get the point that something crazy happens, like bonds were down 51% or something as a drawdown. Well, I mean, obviously there's a little bit of bottom fishing you can do there. The lotto ticket strategy, I mean, maybe something like that, but small capital, stretched out over years, you got to add the losses too. So I would rather be consistent and safe. Are you still doing Wheel of Fun? Yeah, absolutely. That'll be in the VTS options course. It's one of my favorite strategies. I love it. It's actually super unique in the fact that there's very few strategies that you can actually not use any capital, and there's very few strategies that don't add risk to a portfolio. It adds no risk at all. I mean, how could it? It's counter trend by very mathematical design. So yeah, it's something that's unique to me. I see nobody talking about it, nobody sharing any work or data on it. So yeah, I want to be the person who, I'm your guy. If you want to short puts, covered calls on VXX, UVXY, I'm your guy. I'm your source. Just give me a few months to put it together. Have you considered double calendars for low volatility to make them even more non-directional? We don't do double calendars. We use single calendars. So if volatility is below the 1/3 percentile, then we no longer do iron condors. We would switch over to calendars. So even though our iron condor strategy is called, you can see it, it's called the VTS Iron Condor strategy, right? Inside the course, I don't think that's going to load. Is that going to load? No, I'm not signed in. Well, let's take a shot. You're not. Oh, yeah, you are looking at it. No, it's not going to log in. Anyway, there's a course, 30 video mega course for anybody signs up. Free trial included. You just get access immediately. But yes, like we're in Iron Condor right now. But if volatility drops below the 1/3 percentile, then obviously calendars are a little bit less Vega negative. They're actually sort of Vega neutral to Vega positive. So it's just more efficient to jump into calendars during low volatility. A double calendar, I personally don't think it offers anything other than the calendar. The only reason you would do a double calendar is if you were going to be taking them close to expiration or letting them get right to expiration. In that case, maybe you could make a case that you're broadening the range. But when you take long dated option trades, a single and a double calendar are basically the same thing. Like the daily profit curve is the same. And we use a 25% stop gain, stop loss. We're not even close to expiration on these trades. So it really doesn't add anything. It just adds trade fees. It adds complexity for no reason at all. Single calendar is absolutely the same thing. All right. Is that it? We answered all the questions? Cool. So yeah. Unless there's some more, I'll do a little wrap up and I'll keep an eye on the bottom thing here. But yes, I do want to just make sure that everybody knows, even though I don't say it a lot, I just very, very much appreciate everybody showing up. It's a little bit weird every time I do a live stream. It's a little bit odd. You sort of feel, I don't know. I don't have imposter syndrome, but I watch a lot of podcasts, right? Your Chris Williamsons, your Alex Hormozis, stuff like this. And they talk about that a lot, that successful people always have this, imposter syndrome hovering over them because it is a little bit of a weird thing. I'm sitting in my house talking, and even though I like to be humble and, I take criticism pretty well, I think, people don't have to agree with me. There is this aspect of like, I guess I'm putting myself as like I'm the expert and you guys are all listening, but it's really not like that. So I do want to just make sure everybody knows how thankful I am for following the work and engaging with the community and all that stuff. It's great. People retweet my stuff on Twitter. I always appreciate it. Give the videos a like for me every time I ask, even though I almost forget every single time to ask that. See, there's only 25 likes now. There's way more people watching than that. So you know what to do. So thanks for spending time. Oh, you missed the stream. Sorry. Yeah. So next year, as you saw, I pointed it out. I do have it on my list to make sure that I do 52 live streams, which means I can't miss a week next year. If I want to check, this is a bold, last year I did 26 and I checked them all. I did the done thing. This year I'm going all out, 52 live streams. I'm going to do a live stream every week, no matter where I am in the world. Even if I have nothing to talk about and there's nothing interesting happening in the markets, I will just sit here and answer questions for an hour. That would be totally fine. And I'm really hoping to get consistency and focus next year. So I'm a little bit spacey on the content. I understand that. I was just browsing your website and you feel like the VTS strategies revolve around UVXY, etc. Only not on stock option. Please clarify. I don't know. I don't know what that means. So I guess I could jump into it really quick, super quick, because it's not supposed to be work questions. But currently we have 5 strategies. This might change. Spoiler alert for anybody who's actually in the community. It is that time of year where we make slight adjustments to the portfolio, and I'm not saying anything today, but if you can see my mouse hovering. Anyway, we've got 5 strategies going. And as far as which ones are VXX and UVXY, this one is not. This is just ETFs. This one, again, they're ETFs, but this one is a short volatility strategy with a long volatility component. So this would be volatility ETFs, like you're talking about. And if people don't want ETFs, they can do the stock replacement instructions are exactly the same for every trade we take. Will also have options replacements for it. This one does not, or actually there does have a long vol component here, but this is stocks. This cash will be a position this year. I think we're ready to jump back in with something. Somebody mentioned TLT, that's on the radar. This is iron condors, this is not UVXY. And then this one is short volatility with UVXY, VXX broken wing butterflies. So there's one here that's direct vol ETFs, and then there's one here. So 2 out of 5. I guess that was my main point is, it might give the impression that everything is short vol related, but 2 of the 5 strategies are. I'm a cyclist. I know you do a lot of running. Yes. How do you stay motivated, and what are your goals at your age? We're the same age. Heat, great movie. Yeah, Heat's an awesome movie. They don't make movies like that anymore, do they? That's another thing I was thinking recently. There's no good movies anymore, is there? I was kind of a Marvel fan, so I did like right up until, I don't know the names of them. I wouldn't say I'm super into it, but right after Thanos was defeated, they all suck. I mean, there's just no good movies anymore. I guess, Oppenheimer was good. And what's that new one about something about the night moon or something? I don't know. Can't butchered that, but there's a new movie that looks somewhat interesting. But yeah, Heat, movies like that, Pulp Fiction, stuff like that, they just don't make those anymore. What was the question? You're a cyclist. That's awesome. Cycling, probably even a larger commitment, isn't it, than running? I mean, I used to do triathlons, but I barely spent any time on the bike. I always felt like I was a competitive swimmer, a national competitive swimmer, so I was always out pretty fast. And cycling, I didn't spend much time on. Swimming and the running were my 2 strengths. And biking, I just thought, well, I'll just do the best I can. And I was decent. I have strong legs, very good cardio. But didn't train cycling. I think you probably train longer hours than I do as a runner. I run maybe 160 to 210 kilometers a month. So we're talking 12 runs, 14 runs, anywhere probably 15 to 20, up to about halves each time. So it's like an hour and a half each time. I think cycling, you probably got to be on your bike a little longer than that. How do I stay motivated? I run for multiple reasons. Of course, health and fitness is one, but to be honest, running, as far as weight loss, running is probably a negative. Like people running for weight loss it's a mistake because you will eat more than you burned when you were running. You just get really hungry when you run. So it's one of those things. If you want weight loss, of course, weightlifting, just lift heavy weights. You'll lose the fastest weight possible is build muscle, right? Running, for me, I get a lot of work done when I'm running. A lot of my best thinking, a lot of my best planning, a lot of the great podcasts that I listen to happen when I'm out there and I get ideas and I immediately go home and all sweaty and I open my computer and I have to write stuff down and I have to clean my laptop after. Sorry, it's kind of gross, but it's hot in Dubai. That's what I do. So running's awesome for that. I also run because it's really hard. I'm almost 50 and it's not easy to be out there doing what I do. And I like to do things that I know nobody else is going to do or very few people are going to do. I love running in extreme weather, either super cold where, it's just freezing and you're just layered in clothes. I used to do that in Canada. And then here, just in the dead of summer, blistering heat, nobody else is out there. I like being the only one. Channeling my inner David Goggins, I guess. Just love the idea of doing hard things. I've had a lot of challenges in my life. I don't talk about them often, but I mean, I had a lot of stuff. I had financial problems. I lost a career in golf because of injuries, basically bone and joint problems. I had cancer that I, had to get through, and all these things that in my life, not to get too graphic, but a couple of miscarriages as well. That's hard to get through. So a lot of challenges that come to my life. And when you do hard things, you tend to get through them much easier, right? I've had a, fairly traumatic childhood, nothing to do directly with my parents. My family and my childhood was incredible, but there was some stuff, right, that I don't talk about, but doing hard things, always making sure that you're in grind mode, and running's the best thing I know because it's hard. Like, who wants to go running? Who really wants to go running? Nobody likes being in pain. So my motivation is I just have to do it. You learn to love it, but I don't love it for the same reasons I love golf. I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but yeah. And I'm kind of a loner, so running is something that suits me as well. I'm likable. I don't mean to give the impression that people, I can't make any friends. I could, I'm just an introvert. I just prefer it that way. When I was in school, I had a million friends. I was one of those, maybe you hated the people like me. I was never a bully, but I was always popular. I always sat at the cool table and all that stupid stuff. But once I graduated college, no, I'm an introvert. I just want to be who I am. And so running suits me better than, say, joining a pickup basketball league or something like that. I like to be out there alone. I even like to golf alone. Sometimes I intentionally book tee times to play by myself so I can practice myself. I can talk to myself. I do look like a crazy person sometimes. Yeah. Please click like on the way out. Yes, that would be fantastic. I should have said something at the beginning, but maybe it'll do a little something at the end. Answered this one already. SVXY is slightly better than ZIVB in every way. So we use SVXY. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you for all the support. I know you've checked out many of the live streams, so thank you for that. What's the visual law bar review? Typically you don't have that on your name, so let me know what that add-on there is. That's interesting. The last couple of years, Marval tanked. Yeah, I hate them all. Everything after Thanos is a waste of time. But I have this weird problem, though, that I rarely watch movies. I don't watch TV. I don't even, like this, I haven't even turned that on. It's an Airbnb, but I don't watch TV. I don't really own a TV. Haven't for decades. But when I do watch a movie, I have to finish it. I absolutely have to. It's just in my brain. I cannot turn it off. I don't know why. And I can't walk out of the theater. So, God, I've wasted so much time in bad movies in the last 3 or 4 years that I just have this mental starch blocker that I can't cut. I can't pull the plug, but I know that I want to and I should. But yeah, a lot of time wasted. Disney wrecked the franchise. Disney wrecked a lot of things. Disney is not doing well lately. Hope they make a comeback. Happy New Year from Geneva. I thought it was Geneva. I was in Switzerland last year for a couple months. Genova, Italy. So Italy, it is the plan. We don't know for sure, but I think for April, we will be take my mom and my wife to Italy this year. The three of us went to Switzerland last year, and it was, amazing trip of a lifetime. So I think this year is Italy. Maybe we can meet up. Yeah. Well, your name's super familiar. Yeah, I know you well. So email me. When you start hearing me talk about Italy, make sure you email me, and you can, at the very least, give me some cool suggestions and perhaps even meet up and, have a lunch or something like that. That'd be cool. If you had to pick one attribute that defines a successful trader, what would it be? There's so many. Can I say a good track record? Self-evident. I wouldn't even do this justice on the spot. And if I did, it would just sound like platitudes, like the old same old thing, be consistent. The one thing I will say, and this is just off topic, this doesn't answer your question, but the one thing that I really can't stand is there seems to be this culture on Twitter about people who are teaching others how to trade talk about how you have to grind and struggle and lose for years and years while you're building their skills, and you've got to pay your dues, and you're going to lose, all this money, and it's going to, 5 years in, you might be profitable. This is garbage, right? This is absolute trash. If there is a person out there that actually required 5 years of losses and struggle, I'd have a real hard time trusting anything they say. I mean, it's just, that's one pet peeve of mine, that there seems to be this attitude on Twitter that it's just this constant battle and struggle. There are some very simple things you can do to make yourself at least, above water very quickly. I really don't understand this. Well, I actually do understand. The reason that they do that is because when you join their community, they know that you're going to be losing money based on their recommendations. And so what they're going to do, instead of saying, oh yeah, everything I'm saying sucks because I started trading 6 months ago, what they're going to say is, no, you don't understand. Trading's super hard. You have to take losses for years. You got to grind and struggle, and you got to work, and you got to put in the work, and you got to make your schedules and track your trade. Okay, but if you're having a community and you're the one giving the tips and advice, why do they need 5 years of struggle? I saw somebody tweet today that they lost $500,000 trading, and here's all the lessons I can teach you. And then I clicked the name, and sure enough, they've got a community teaching option trading. Yeah, you lost 500 grand over a 5-year period, and you're an option coach? All right, I guess. Doesn't seem to be. I wouldn't have any confidence following that. You don't need 5 years of losses and grinding and pain and struggle. You'd quit after 6 months, right? What's the deal with that? Why do traders always talk about how long it takes to be? No, anyway, that's a total tangent. I don't know. I can't do this justice. Maybe I'll put something together. When I start the VTS options community, there will be more. I'll do a secondary live stream every week for that community. And that would be one topic that I would go to. I'll do my little typical PowerPoint, and I'll nail some down. Again, I don't watch soccer, just based on the very minimal. I mean, I'll watch 20 minutes of the World Cup every 4 years, basically. I don't watch sports. Like I said, I don't watch other people do it. I'd rather play myself. But I think it's pretty clear that Messi's the best, right? I don't know anything about it, but isn't Messi the best ever at this point? Isn't that kind of solidified? Great insight. Love the personal live chat. Yep. Just a glimpse into my personal life. Nobody asked anything embarrassing. The only one was the religion thing, which you always want to kind of dance around a little bit, because I want to be very respectful of everybody, and you don't want to alienate anybody. So yeah, nobody asked any embarrassing stuff. Does VTS have a tool to measure volatility? Well, my volatility barometer, of course, and whether the tool is accessible by subscribers. No, like the actual volatility barometer number, the value is pretty central to what we do. So this is going to be one of those things that just sounds incredibly self-serving, but I mean, it is, but that's not really what I'm about. I am about providing the best education as well as the best portfolio and a whole community and all that blah, blah, blah. But basically, if I gave these values publicly on a website every day, then it would yield 2 of my 5 strategies pretty, well, not meaningless, but you wouldn't need me anymore, would you? A couple of our strategies trade directly based on that number. So, like I said, totally self-serving, but I can't just give it away for free. This is 18 years of work. So I don't know how that sounds, but people get paid for their work. And part of it is my assessment of volatility, my deep analysis of what it really is, far beyond something as silly as the VIX index. So has there been any improvements last year to improve the downside protection so 2022 doesn't happen again? No, I wouldn't say I changed too much, because 2022 was a year where it sucked for me for different reasons than it sucked for other people, but it did suck for me as well. I lost 20% that year. And what happened with me was, I think what happened for most people is that they were typically, like happens all the time when there's a market crash, they're in the stock market too much. For us, we actually cycle out of positions that are aggressive, like QLD, 2 times NASDAQ, SVXY short vol, S&P 500 over here. We cycle out of these and we go into safety basically at the first sign of trouble. Once volatility elevates to any sort of danger zone levels, we are out into our safety positions. Utilities, gold, and in years past, this was IEF bonds or even TLT bonds. This one was IYR real estate during 2022. And so what happened was I actually did get the right signals and cycle out into the right safety positions. But in 2022, all the safety positions went down just as much as the stock market. So I would exit out of the NASDAQ and we'd go into utilities and it goes down just as much as the NASDAQ. We'd exit out of the SPY, we'd go into the IYR real estate. I'm in safety, it should be better, and IYR was down just as much as the stock market. So for me, it was an equally bad year as a lot of other people experienced for kind of a different reason. We did flight to safety, but safety was just as bad. So there's really, to answer your question, oh, wait, no, that's not it. There's more questions coming in. Oh yeah, here it is. No, what am I doing? It's not that late. It's only 11:30. Come on. Get your shit together. What is going on here? Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, got it. Okay, ignore me. You don't ever want to optimize your portfolio for an outlier year, right? That's essentially what happened. We had a bad period. There's no way of getting around it. Like, truth is truth, and I always post my performance, and this was not good, right? I've been doing this for 12 years at VTS. It's been pretty consistent. We had a good year this year, nothing wrong with that. We had several good years before that. This was terrible. Nobody's more critical of myself than I am, so haters can hate all they want, but I'm as critical as anybody. That was bad. But it is an outlier. So do I want to optimize my portfolio to make sure that this never happens again, that might introduce problems that we just smoothly handled in the past? And this is one of those, I'm not sure it's a philosophical answer, but how much optimization should you do when you're in a drawdown? So you really need, my job as a manager, I'm managing my own capital here, and I don't want to lose money, obviously. So, my motivation goes far beyond helping other people. It's also 100% of my money's in these strategies as well. I was down in that year, and I saw my net worth go down. You have to be super honest and real about what caused the drawdown. If it was something that could have been fixed and should be fixed, then it's your job to fix it, obviously. But if it is an outlier, well, the last thing I would want to do is optimize my portfolio for the 1 year out of 12 that didn't work, and the 11 years otherwise were fine. So I basically made the decision that, look, it was the safety positions that cost us. So the only real change that I made was IYR real estate went from IYR into cash. So for the last year, this whole year, we were using cash instead of real estate. That's really the only, and also we dropped the leverage here, but that's irrelevant. Long term, it's kind of all the same anyway. But that's really all the changes that I made. And I believe, and again, nobody can see the future, but I believe that that is the best way to tackle the future, is that I think that 9 years out of 10, the portfolio that I have, the strategies that I have, that's going to be my best foot forward, basically. Doesn't mean they always win. Sometimes you have a flat year, even though your portfolio is really good. But out of a 12-year track record plus 6 years previous to that, I've really only had 1 or 2 outlier years that I wish went a lot better than they did. I wouldn't want to rush in and make any changes. I think that would be a mistake. So, yeah. I've sort of I basically stress test the portfolio mentally, mathematically, and put the best thing I can go starting now. And so at the end of the year is basically the time when I do a sort of an audit of everything that's gone on. and I allow myself small changes. I don't like to change stuff very often. I mean, that's just over optimization. Oh, it's not working for 6 months. Okay, let's change everything. No, that's terrible. Don't ever optimize for something that's short term. But there might be a couple changes going forward. Hint for VTS members. Hopefully I answered that. Terrence Crawford is my favorite fighter. You've picked a good one. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'm going to get hate for this, but that was, I mean, Terrence Crawford against Errol Spence, probably the best performance arguably ever, because I don't think I mean, there's been complete one-sided battles in boxing many, many times before, but it's very rare that you get a top world-class pound-for-pound fighter. Like Spence was third, I think, in the world, and you could have made a case at the time that he was second. Just get completely dismantled like that. So, I mean, yeah, Bud Crawford is insane, and I hope the rematch goes the same. I mean, it went from Spence being a 2 or 3 best fighter in the world to getting audited, and now experts are wondering whether he should ever fight again. Like, literally, that's how bad that was. So it was just phenomenal. But no, I wouldn't say he's my favorite. Honestly, Lomachenko is still my favorite, even though I think he beat Haney. I think it was pretty clear. I don't understand why that decision, but he did lose to Lopez, which broke my heart a little bit. But yeah, Lomachenko's still my guy. But I do love Crawford as well. What do you say if someone asks you what you do? I find it cringy saying that I'm a trader. I typically say something resembling asset management. Yeah, I find it cringy trader as well, because you know me, I mean, I've made multiple videos on it. It's just a terrible idea to be a full-time trader. It just is. Like, just mathematically speaking, that is a factual statement. You are leaving so much money on the table if you're withdrawing money from your trading account to pay your bills, to pay your mortgage, to buy food, take your family on a vacation. You're withdrawing money from your account to do that. So in my mind, there should be no such thing as a full-time trader. Like, I'm a trader, I suppose, right? But I have a good income from selling signals to other people, right? So I don't have to withdraw any money from my long-term portfolio, and it can keep compounding at the rate that I'm making with my strategies. It would make no sense to stop doing that. If you start withdrawing money from an account, I showed it, like, mathematically speaking, you get a guy who has $1 million and one person making the same rate of return as somebody else. One guy doesn't pull out any money and he makes a 20% a year rate of return, like everybody on Twitter seems to do in their sleep. He retires with $50 million, right? The other trader who's withdrawing a pretty modest amount is not going to make any forward progress because you're just pulling out too much money, right? So yeah, this whole I'm a full-time trader, the one that gets me, the thing that I just always laugh and I just find, like, don't people put 2 and 2 together? And they'll say that I'm a full-time trader and I can teach you how to be a full-time trader too. Pay me money, buy my course. You're not a full-time trader anymore, are you? You're making money off subscription fees and courses and book sales, and you're not a full-time trader. You're a trader that has an income off all the other people that are paying you money. That's what I am. I'm a trader, but no, I'm an asset manager who makes an income off helping other people. So I would never dream of calling myself a full-time trader. That's absurd. I don't know why people on Twitter let them get away with that. Every time they say that, remind them, oh, by the way, if that's true and you're a full-time trader, can I just get the signals for free? Because you don't need the income, right? You're a full-time trader. You're super successful. You're a multimillionaire trader. You don't need an income. Why am I paying you subscription fees if you're telling everybody else you trade for a living? You don't trade for a living. You also make money. So yeah, I suppose I would answer it with portfolio manager, asset manager, something like that, which is, I think, a far better description. This trader culture is out of control. Twitter is insane. Do you have a book, blog, suggestion? Same guy. Sorry, I completely feel for you. I understand I've done a poor job explaining what I do to new people. It's really one of, say, 2 or 3 things that are holding me back. And it's on my list of things I can tackle. So just email me. Just add to my workload. I spend a ton of time every day. Give me more work. Ask your questions. I will answer them. Aloha from Hawaii. Awesome. You live in Hawaii? I always think it's cool when people live at tourist destinations. I guess I do now too. Dubai is a super tourist destination. But it's kind of cool, right? Why not? Why wouldn't you live at a place where everybody pays a lot of money to go see? Seems like a great idea to me. Can you also comment that previously you had argued against using leverage pre-2020, but since they have increased the leverage to roughly 1.5 when the portfolio is in equity? So I've never argued against using leverage. I just didn't make it public. But since basically I started in 2012, there have been 2 portfolios, right? The leveraged and the unleveraged. But for me, I always thought, ethically speaking, any type of advertising whatsoever to leverage was bad. So, I mean, leverage in itself doesn't improve performance unless you can contain the drawdowns. If you can't contain the drawdowns, then leverage doesn't do anything. In fact, it just makes things worse. So I've never before, like you said, circa 2020, I never advertised any other thing publicly on the website. But I never asked personal questions about people, but occasionally I'll do questionnaires. I would say half the people were using ETF replacements for what we used to do, the MDY at the time, right? The S&P 400 MidCap. A lot of people using MVV. QQQ, a lot of people using QLD. SSO, 2 times leverage SPY. I just didn't have it on the website. And then, yeah, like you said, that somewhat rings a bell, 2020-ish. I started putting the leveraged portfolio on the website, and the rest is history. So I feel like since nowadays, I actually do, obviously other than 2022, there's always going to be that caveat for my entire career. It sucks. But I do contain drawdowns very well. So one of our strategies does use leverage. So I don't call this like the leveraged portfolio anymore. I just call it the portfolio. That changed, like you said, about 3 years ago. I used to have one that was called the total portfolio and then one that was called the leveraged total portfolio. And I even had many years where I used to have both strategies had their own section. So one of them would say defensive, and then down below, we had another one that would say leveraged defensive rotation. And now I don't do that. It's just we use QLD. That's the strategy now. And of course, I mentioned down here, if people don't want leverage, they can use the Qs. And then here we use SVXY. I don't think anybody needs more than 0.5 leverage to short vol. And then here SPY, if you want to use 2 times SSO, go for it. But I personally don't. I use the 1 time SPY. But in 2022, we used the SSO. So that answers your question. Yeah. Basically just, again, email problems, simplicity. I went through that phase of just simplifying everything. The daily email, the website, everything was all condensed down, and it works out a little bit better. Have you done studies along the lines of only shorting VIX when it gets to 20 or above, staying out when below? You're going to like videos next year. I've got a whole series, basically what I would call the volatility power rankings, and I will be doing some videos on tests like that. Like what would happen if you shorted volatility when the VX30 to VIX roll yield is below its 50th percentile and then above its 50th percentile? What are the results? Compare that to what would happen on the cash VIX term structure if the VIX 3M is above the VIX in its 50th percentile or above. I've got a whole series planned, so you're going to be interested in that one. Short answer, what did you say? Have you done studies along the lines of shorting VIX when it gets to 20 or above? Well, that wouldn't work. It's a little bit counterintuitive for people, but essentially you don't want to short volatility when volatility is high. there are times when it's a slam dunk and you fade vol perfectly and you make a bunch of money, but that is also the time when all bad things are happening and you're going to get into a trade and it's going to continue going against you. So by very design, you are jumping into the worst possible market periods if you do this. If you get into it when it's above 20, you have now guaranteed that every single crisis, you're going to feel the full brunt of that. Essentially what you want to do, and again, sometimes it feels counterintuitive, but you want to short volatility when it's mid to low, right? You want to be a trend follower. You don't want to be that contrarian. Contrarians can nail it perfectly, and you can celebrate on Twitter, and you can tell everybody how awesome you are that you shorted the VIX when it was 30 and it went down to 15 and you made a whack of money. But you also have to include all those times when you shorted it at 22 and it went up to 82. You have to also include that one. And so, no, you're walking into trouble if you do that. Go long volatility when it's super elevated. Again, counterintuitive. Go long vol when volatility is very high. Go short vol when it's mid to low. You'll have much better results long term. What was your worst trade of all time? I actually made a video about it. I don't know how many people watched that video. Let's take a little trip down the YouTube channel. So I don't know if sometimes people don't put two and two together that I actually have a whole bunch of videos on the YouTube channel. They just follow the live stream. But worst trade ever. Let's see if it comes up. My worst trading loss ever. So this is a video of basically all the way back in 2010. I showed my brokerage account statements for this video going back to 2010. I lost $70,000 in 1 month. That wasn't fun. And I believe it equated to about a 17% loss in a single month. So that would be my worst ever as far as a monthly loss. But if you wanted to ask what my biggest overall loss would be in 2010, again, 2010 was a brilliant year in many ways, like just slam dunk. I was more risky back then. I had months where I just made a ton of money. And I also had months where just catastrophic. But in 2010, I lost, cover your children's ears when you hear this, but I lost about $300,000 buying Chinese ADR companies, ADR stocks. Like, they claimed that they had these great inventions, solar cells, wind turbine companies, and all these things. I took a massive hit on those companies that I just went down a road and a path that I'm not a stock trader per se. Like I said, when I started in 2005, it was options right from the get-go. So I dipped a toe in those stupid things. I don't know why. I guess it's probably a little bit of influence because I lived in Taiwan. So a lot of my focus was, the rising China, right? Obviously, I was way too early to the party. And a lot of those companies were absolute frauds, just shell companies of complete no revenue whatsoever. And took a massive hit. But as far as a single month, check out that video. You'll see it. Not fun. That was 13 years ago. You do recover, I recovered. Didn't take very long to recover, but you learn a lot. I mean, why did I highlight another question when I'm still going? Oh, I already did that. Good thing. What was I going to say? No, I was going to say, something to do with, haters. Whenever you get a hater, this another thing, haters always, I love haters. I don't have very many. I wish I had more. But the one thing that you always know a hater has never really had any success in their life, because what they don't understand is success is full of failures, right? That's the whole point of it. The only difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is the successful person had way more failures and kept going. Unsuccessful people quit as soon as they fail. Like they're like, oh, that didn't work. I'm done. I'm out. Successful people have tons of those stories, right? Like I can tell you, I am a very experienced expert investor, right? I lost 300 grand buying stupid Chinese companies, 13 years ago. you have stories like that. So I always kind of think it's funny when people hate on you and they try to point to your failure like it's going to have any impact on you. Like people will point to my 2022 and, they'll wait in the wings for 10 years to try to tear you down. And as soon as it happens, they're going to point at it. But the thing they don't understand is they're just shining a spotlight on their own life. Like that just means that you're the type of person that doesn't get it, right? I'm as critical on myself as anybody, but I'm not afraid to tell people that I have had epic failures in the past and I've kept going. So yeah, I would say one of those two were my biggest failures. And then I guess I could add a third one just for fun. Another failure that you could consider a failure. I bought Apple stock, didn't know anything about investing. This was back when I was playing pro golf. I was in Scottsdale. I was running a lot back then. And that was when the iPod came out. I thought the iPod was the greatest invention of all time. I've told this story before because I used to carry one of those Discmen on my hip when I was running. I used to pull my shorts down and I always had to cinch them super tight to hold this big, huge, shock-absorbing Discman on my running. So the iPad was just game changer. So I bought Apple stock. I had, $30,000 or something. I was like, okay, let's do this. And I bought it at, I think it was 17, but this was so many years ago. But that was pre all the splits and whatnot. So there was a 7-to-1 split. I think there was more. There was a 4-to-1. So 17 is like less than $1. I bought Apple for dirt cheap, right? And it went from, at the time, the price was 17. I think it went to 68, and I sold it. Well, I mean, it would be. I'm not a stock trader. I'm a tactical. I rotate in and out, and I have no regrets doing that. But if I was a little dumber and I just held on to that Apple stock, yeah, I would have made millions. But live and learn. So that's not really a mistake. It's not a trading loss, but it's an opportunity cost. I could have been rich just on one single stock. That would have been cool. Regarding the failure point you just made, wouldn't you say the same regarding your earlier comment on traders that sell courses saying they lost 500? No, absolutely not. You need to right the ship way sooner than that. That was my point, is that anybody who keeps butting their head over and over again and they're just grinding for years, and it's a selling point apparently. It's just like, man, I was a failure for 5 years and it took me 6 years to even make any money. That's the part that I don't get, right? A lawyer, a doctor, they all make mistakes. We all have those big failure points. But like I said, successful people push through that. They fix the problem and they keep going. It didn't take me very long to recover from what I lost. And there has not been a repeat of that error. If you're a trader who's lost 500 grand for a 5-year period and you weren't profitable until year 6, you're talking about making every mistake in the book 4 times over again, right? You can't, that was more my point. Maybe I didn't say it correctly, but I look at Twitter and I see that. And I think it's an insulation for the fact that they're preparing for negativity towards what they're selling. Like this is not working. And then they're going to be able to say, you need to work harder. And they're like, well, these signals, these trades, they're leading me astray. I keep losing money. They're like, yep, I've been there. Me too. Stick around for a couple more years. I think it's one of those that, please continue paying me for 5 or 6 more years, even though it's not working. I feel that way anyway. I probably didn't explain that very well. Why do you think small cap 400 ETF MDYs perform less from regular SPY? It's just, if you look at the stocks in the S&P 500 that are doing well, they're the mega caps. They're the Magnificent Seven, basically. So the regular stock market, I guess the S&P 493, or there's actually 505 or 6 or something in this S&P. So everything minus the best 7, that does not perform very well. Hasn't for years. And that's what the MD 400 is. It's mid cap. So it's not going to include any of those companies. Unfortunately, and it's very, very evenly weighted, right? Nothing in the MDY is weighted very heavily, whereas the S&P, and certainly in the NASDAQ, it's very top heavy. There's 10 companies that are basically half of the index, right, for the NASDAQ. You don't get that with the MDY. So it just underperforms because it's not going to be including your Apples and NVIDIA and all these things that are rocketing, Microsoft and Google and all the big ones. Doesn't include those. So MDY has struggled for years. And I guess it's sort of a sign of the market that we're in. If you're not exposed to tech, you've probably underperformed. If you're underexposed to tech, you have underperformed the market. It's basically what it comes down to. Anybody who is highly exposed to tech, just because some people have just this precondition that that's what they chase, they've done very well. Some people are just maybe right time, right place. They just have the right thinking. It's like when I said I bought Apple super cheap. There are some people who are just mentally predisposed to just hold these things for 20 years. And some people are not. And so I guess if I held Apple and I was a mega millionaire because of that trade, I could pretend that I'm a genius investor. But really what it would have been is that's just the way my brain was wired. I was going to buy it and hold it no matter what anyway. So is it a credit to me if I made $10 million on Apple? Not really. I just bought and hold. My brain is wired to look for ways to maximize risk-adjusted return, which means I have to cycle in and out of things. It's just the way my brain works. So tech is the same thing. Some people just, everything tech related, they just buy it, right? Does that mean that they're a brilliant investor because they bought Uber? I don't know. Their brain sees, oh, new tech startup, I don't know what it is, I'm in. And it turns out to be brilliant, right? So anybody who's highly exposed to tech is probably high-fiving. When looking for safety, have you considered T-bills? Yeah. This year, last year maybe, but overall not really. But yes, we do, because our option strategies don't occupy the full allocations. So if you wanted, oh, there we go, rescued it. Because these option strategies don't require the full allocation, like I give it a 20% because iron condors should be kept very small, so we only use 3, a maximum of 9. The remainder of that money, the 11%, goes into T-bills, basically, short-term treasuries, very short-term, getting 4 to 5%, whatever interest rates are at the time. And same thing with this one. But the other 3 strategies don't have any positions that cycle into those. No, I don't think it's worth it. It's a short-term aberration thing, and we can do better than for whatever it pays. Okay, maybe not last question. We'll see. Do you trade multiple accounts? No, all my money is in all my strategies, exactly the weightings that you see. Plus, I do trade a few of the option strategies that you've heard me talk about. VIX options, I love it. I trade, a good chunk of my money in that. Wheel of Fun, I trade that. I trade, Volstep, earnings trades, but in smaller allocations. But everything you see is what I do. I just do it across 2 accounts. I have one account that you see in the live streams, and I just make sure it has a kind of a small amount of money in it. So I think I put in 130,000 when I first started doing the live streams, and it grew to something like 270. And then I've recently withdrawn a whole bunch of that money. I think it's down to like 67. I just keep that account somewhere in the range of like 50 to 200 or something. So that account that you see, the reason I do that is so that I don't have to hide anything. I don't even hide the account number. I mean, if you watch my live streams, you can actually see the account number right on the live stream. The reason I kept a small amount of money in there is I just hate, live streams are really hard. It's actually really hard to be clicking around, and it's nerve-wracking. I just didn't want to have my trading account something that I had to actively hide. So I can just click. I can just click anything. If somebody happens to figure out a way to just brute force and steal 70,000 or 100,000, I'm not going to say it's a fun day, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. That's why I do that. But then I have another account, my long-term portfolio, that I do not touch. Like I said, that's one of the reasons, one of the benefits, and one of the great things about having a community that, yeah, you don't have to touch your long-term portfolio. I would recommend everybody do that. If you have a skill, you should be paid for it. So what better way than to get paid for your skill and your passion, right? It's awesome. So I have 2 accounts, but I just mirror. I just take the trades in the live stream account just for official purposes, and then I jump over, take the exact same trades in the right weighting in the other account. And 2 is good for me. I don't keep things very complicated. I just have 2 accounts and that's it. All right, I think this might be the last question. Why is the market not efficient in a way that it's impossible to outperform it using data? Will it ever be so efficient that no one will make more than the market does? No, of course not. No, it's always going to be a spectrum. And the spectrum is skewed down below the market, right? Most people underperform the market, but there's always going to be people that outperform the market. It's, a large bell curve skewed to one side, basically. But just because the market is efficient, and it is relatively efficient, larger institutions and high-frequency trading can maybe take advantage of some inefficiencies, but we can't. I mean, I'm not going to be able to take any literal arbitrage positions. None are available to me. So I have to be tactical. I have to use my edge, which would be position sizing, tactical rotation, understanding volatility metrics, when to be in aggressive and when to be conservative. That's all we can do. But yeah, of course I believe that people can outperform the market. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't. This is one of those questions that people ask all the time. They're like, well, what makes you think, we know that roughly, 10% or so of asset managers long-term will outperform the market. What makes you being me, the person's asking me, what makes you think you're in the top 10%? I am. I just am. I just have always worked hard enough and applied my skills so that I'm in the top, inside the 1%. Sometimes I feel like people are setting me up to act arrogant, but I'm really trying to be humble. It's just one of those things. Yeah, there's going to be a percentage of people that beat the market, and I believe that I work very hard for 18 years, and I'm obviously going to be one of them. I was in the top, whatever it was for school. I got all these scholarships. I got all the, academic and athletic. I got both of them. I was athlete of the year at my school. There's 38,000 students at my school. I was athlete of the year. I got 2 degrees while playing a professional golf career. I work hard, I was in the top 0.00001% of the world in golf. And I've been investing for 18 years. I'd like to think that, yeah, I do. I mean, I run. I've seen statistics where 1% of the population can actually run a marathon. And of the people that have finished a marathon, only 1% of them can qualify for Boston. Well, I guess I'm in the 0.01% of runners, and it's a hobby. I try to strive to be the very best at what I do. There is no, compartmentalized discipline. I just do it all. So there's always going to be people that beat the market. It's going to be a small percentage that do, because I've said it many times, beating the stock market when the stock market's doing well is a difficult feat. Beating the stock market long-term, when you include its drawdowns every, say, once per decade, then it starts to become a lot easier, right? Because as we know, it is going to crash 50%, 60%. We know it's coming. It's happened many times before, or multiple times before. It's going to happen again. When it does, that's when you're going to start to hopefully see some really big outperformance if you're doing tactical strategies. And if you have an edge, that's when you're going to notice it the most. Your edge is not going to show itself. It might show a little bit during really good times, but it's really going to show itself in bad times. So, certainly in the last 5 years, the stock market's done very well, but you could even stretch that back and say since 2010. Yeah, there's fewer people that are going to beat the stock market since 2010. But if you stretch it back to 2007, for anybody who was trading that long, it becomes easier. The next market crash, there will be people that do it, etc. I'm trying to be one of them. I'm trying to just, as politely and humbly as possible, say that, I'll do right by the people who follow me long term. That's all I can really say. I do strive to be the very best at everything I do. Trade multiple accounts. Is IB still working well for you? I've actually very recently just moved away from IB. I used IB, let me try to get the timeline correct here. I think I switched to IB about 2011, and that was back when TD Ameritrade charged $9.99 per entry and exit, plus 75 cents per option contract. So I just thought, well, I'm just losing too much here. So I went to IB. But in the last few years, fees at brokers are getting far more competitive. So I just like TOS so much better. IB, I hate their platform. I always have. I've never heard anybody say anything good about it. And I'm sure they have the money to fix it up. They just don't. So I like TOS. And now that fees are less of an issue, I'm just a TOS guy. All right. Wife's going to be mad at me. 2-hour live stream. How about we call it there? Wish everybody a happy new year. And like I said, next year, big things coming. I think if you're a volatility trader, if you're a tactical asset allocation trader, or if you just like to hang out and ask questions and hopefully make me say something stupid, tune in, follow me, subscribe, all that stuff. Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully 2024 is your best year ever.